Millionaire forgot to log out of his email. His pregnant wife saw the itinerary for two. A flight itinerary sitting innocently on a computer screen can shatter an entire world. When Miranda Townsend, 5 months pregnant and already anxious about the changes looming over her life, discovered an unexpected trip set for two under her husband Jonathan's name, she felt her heart slam against her ribs. Her hands shook. 2 tickets, 1 hotel reservation, 2 passports needed. But why was only his name and a stranger's on the confirmation email? It had to be a mistake, she told herself. Yet the gnawing in her gut wouldn't quit. From that moment, her once blissful reality spiraled into a tangled web of secrets and danger. Miranda Townsend still remembered the first time she laid eyes on her husband, Jonathan. It was at a charity gala in Manhattan, a black tie event for a children's literacy foundation. The night had been thick with glamour, from the iced champagne to the clink of diamond bracelets on the wrists of New York's elite. Miranda had attended as an up-and-coming graphic designer from a modest Brooklyn background, standing awkwardly among crowds discussing summer homes in the Hamptons and new lines of designer suits. In the center of it all was Jonathan Townsend, a tall, meticulously groomed entrepreneur with broad shoulders, quick wit, and a luminous watch that caught the light every time he casually flipped his wrist. Rumor around the room had been that he was worth more than many of the other donors combined, having sold a tech start-up for an eye-popping sum before turning 30. He was older than her by nearly a decade, yet he possessed a boyish smile that made him appear refreshingly approachable. She thought it was odd that such a serious man featured in Forbes, spotted at power lunches with CEOs, could stand so comfortably among gossip and laughter. That night, Jonathan had plucked a flute of champagne off a passing tray and handed it to Miranda with a grin. Something about the way he did it, like he'd known her for years, kindled warmth in her cheeks. She barely realized that in handing her that single glass, he'd broken the ice. They ended up talking for hours about his travels in Europe, her favorite art exhibits, his philanthropic dreams, and her quiet aspirations to start her own boutique design agency one day. He had that intangible quality that made you feel entirely seen. By the time the night ended, Miranda was convinced she'd glimpsed a more generous heart behind the labels and shimmering surface. Over the next few years, their courtship was the stuff of modern fairy tales. Jonathan flew Miranda to Paris on their 3rd date, not to show off, but to indulge her love of architecture. He showered her with gifts, sure, but he also nurtured her passions. He introduced her to influential clients, sent her business leads, and encouraged her to push past her comfort zone. Their life together felt like a dream. Yet, even in a fairy tale, darkness lurks in the corners. Jonathan had always maintained his private side, unexplained phone calls that left him brooding, whispered meetings with lawyers in hushed corners of their penthouse, and old acquaintances with cryptic glances. Miranda used to dismiss these moments as the typical burdens of a man who managed vast sums of money and oversaw multiple business ventures. But ever since she became pregnant, her once hazy doubts grew clearer. She recalled how, during her first ultrasound appointment, Jonathan had been uncharacteristically distant. He'd stood close, holding her hand, but every time his phone vibrated, he would start, as if expecting dire news. When she pressed him about it, he brushed it off with a terse statement about market fluctuations and disruptive competitors. Miranda had tried to be understanding. Millionaires had million-dollar problems after all. But the final straw, the moment everything shifted, came that morning when she discovered he'd left his email open on the living room laptop. She wasn't the prying type, but a suspicious subject line flashed across the screen. Confirmed flight itinerary for Jonathan Townsend, 2 passengers. Her heart pounded the way it did when you realize you're about to read something that will change your life. It was an elaborate trip to Italy, first-class flights, a week-long reservation at a 5-star resort on the Amalfi Coast, romantic candlelit dinners, exclusive tours, and spa appointments. 2 people. 2. Every detail was hammered out, from private car service to couples massages. Only. Miranda wasn't part of that itinerary. Her name didn't appear anywhere on those confirmations. Instead, there was a second passenger, Annette Holloway, a name she had never heard Jonathan mention. She felt her palms go clammy, reading the lines over and over until the letters blurred. Why had her husband booked a lavish Italian getaway with someone else and hidden it from his pregnant wife? The question consumed her, swirling up every insecurity she'd tried to bury. Her hands shook as she stood from the laptop, fear tangling with anger. A voice in her head tried to reason that perhaps it was business, a philanthropic project, or maybe a misunderstanding. But something far deeper in her gut told her that the unspoken truth was much darker. And so, in that moment, Miranda Townsend resolved to find out exactly what was going on, even if it meant risking the beautiful life she and Jonathan had built. She took a shaky breath, shutting the laptop with trembling fingers. Her mind roared with 1,000 questions, but one drowned out all others. Who was Annette Holloway? Early that afternoon, Miranda left the penthouse under the pretense of a prenatal yoga session and instead headed straight for her best friend's loft in Soho. Her friend, Ariel Hammond, had known Miranda since their days at the Pratt Institute. They were both scholarship students, scrounging up coins for cheap pizza slices while finishing design projects. Ariel, with her spiky purple hair and tattooed arms, was an unconventional figure who never hesitated to speak her mind. Inside the loft, Miranda's eyes welled up the instant Ariel opened the door. She could still hear the echo of her own heartbeat from the morning's discovery. Ariel guided her to the plush couch, offering a warm cup of tea. Once Miranda explained the situation, Jonathan's email, the lavish trip to Italy, and the unknown woman, Ariel's jaw clenched. "Have you talked to him about it?" Ariel asked, gently placing a hand on Miranda's knee. Miranda shook her head. "He's at a business meeting all day. And I'm scared. What if I'm just overreacting?" The words tumbled out in a breathless rush. Ariel's face was a portrait of concern. "Miri, sweetie, that's definitely suspicious. I know you want to believe there's a valid explanation, but an itinerary for 2 to Italy? That's not just a business lunch, especially if this woman's name has never come up." "I know. That's what terrifies me," Miranda whispered, bowing her head. "We've been so happy, or at least I thought so. Now I'm wondering what else I've missed. All those times he was traveling for business, the phone calls he ended abruptly." Ariel listened intently, her expression shifting between sympathy and anger. She reached for her phone. "We can try to find out who Annette Holloway is," she offered. "Sometimes a quick search can reveal a lot." Miranda nodded, biting her lip as she watched Ariel type furiously. Within minutes, Ariel had a perplexed scowl. "There's an Annette Holloway who runs a high-end boutique in Los Angeles, another who's a freelance journalist in London. But I'm not seeing anything that clearly ties to Jonathan, at least not on the surface. Let me check social media." A few more minutes passed. Miranda felt each second stretching painfully, as if time itself was mocking her. Ariel's eyebrows rose. "I found an Annette Holloway who liked a post on BNN's coverage of Jonathan's last deal. Her profile's locked, but her profile pic is a silhouette of a woman standing by a yacht. Her bio is minimal. Lives in Monaco, that's all. Hard to confirm if it's the same person." Miranda's chest tightened. Monaco. Jonathan had traveled to Monaco just 5 months ago, shortly before she found out she was pregnant. She remembered how quickly he'd jetted off, citing a sudden invitation to a philanthropic event in Monte Carlo. She had wanted to accompany him, but Jonathan insisted she rest after a bout of morning sickness. Ariel exhaled a slow breath. This might be a huge coincidence, but it's fishy. If this Annette is from Monaco, that aligns with Jonathan's recent trip. Maybe they met there. Miranda's eyes blurred with tears. She tried to think of any possible innocent reason for him to invite a woman from Monaco on a romantic Italian getaway. It was possible he had wealthy foreign investors. It was possible she was just a business associate. But then, why keep it from Miranda? She stood abruptly, nearly spilling her tea. I need to talk to him. I can't jump to conclusions, but I can't ignore it either. Ariel, will you promise to back me up if they turn ugly? You know I will, Ariel said softly, pulling Miranda into a tight hug. No matter what, you have me. Armed with that promise, Miranda left Ariel's loft. She hailed a cab back to the penthouse, heart pounding at the thought of confronting her husband. Yet, when she arrived home, the silent emptiness pressed in on her. The living room was as immaculate as ever, with floor-to-ceiling windows showcasing the Manhattan skyline, modern art pieces on the walls, and a glass coffee table where the laptop still sat. Jonathan's meeting would run late, so she had hours to kill with her spiraling thoughts. She paced from room to room. She lingered in the nursery they'd begun decorating, her hand drifting protectively over her growing belly. She had envisioned so many precious moments, reading bedtime stories, singing lullabies within these softly painted walls. Would those dreams vanish? Amid the swirl of heartbreak, a steely determination emerged. If Jonathan was betraying her, she needed to know. And if there was a logical explanation, she deserved to hear it. She whispered to the baby within, as if the unborn child could somehow anchor her in the storm. We'll figure this out together. Time crawled. At last, around 9 in the evening, Jonathan returned home. Miranda saw him step into the foyer, shoulders slumped with apparent exhaustion. He loosened his tie and offered a soft smile when he spotted her waiting in the living room. "Hey, love," he murmured. Leaning in for a kiss, she only half returned. "We need to talk," she said quietly, gesturing for him to sit. She noticed a flicker of unease cross his features, but he quickly masked it. "Sure. Everything okay?" He settled onto the plush couch, setting his phone aside, face guarded. Miranda's heart hammered. She sat across from him, eyeing the laptop that had betrayed his secret. But a wave of guilt flooded through her. What if she was wrong, and Jonathan truly had an innocent explanation? Her mind reeled. I must approach this carefully. "I saw an email today," she began, voice trembling. "Your email was open. A flight itinerary for 2 to Italy, with someone named Annette Holloway." Jonathan's eyes flared with shock and something else, fear. For a split second, he said nothing. Then he cleared his throat, adopting the polished, confident tone he used in business negotiations. "I can explain," he said softly, reaching for her hand. "It's not what you think." Miranda pulled back. She felt anger swirl. "So tell me, because right now, it looks like you're planning a secret, romantic vacation with another woman." He inhaled deeply, clearly organizing his thoughts. "Annette is. She's an old acquaintance," he said slowly, holding Miranda's gaze. "She's in a situation with her family's estate in Italy. Her father passed away recently, and he left some land in the Amalfi Coast region. She asked me for business advice, maybe even some financial partnership. I offered to meet her there and see the property. That's it." Miranda frowned. "Then why keep it hidden from me? Why did you never mention her before?" "I wasn't sure if I was actually going," Jonathan said, his voice steady but his eyes flicking nervously. "I didn't want to worry you or drag you into a messy situation. This is complicated. It involves inheritance disputes and local politics. Plus, you're pregnant. The last thing you need is stress. I planned to tell you once I'd finalized my decision. The itinerary you saw was just a preliminary booking." Her mind struggled between the comfort of his earnest tone and the leftover suspicion gnawing at her. So, you're telling me it's purely professional? He nodded. Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. He glanced down, then placed a gentle hand on her stomach. Miranda, I love you. I wouldn't do anything to jeopardize what we have, especially with our baby on the way. A wave of relief fought against skepticism. His explanation was plausible. He was known to partner with people who had unique assets or properties, and if Annette was from Monaco or somewhere else in Europe, maybe they had stayed in touch after a philanthropic event. Yet something about the conversation felt rehearsed. The mention of a father's estate, local politics, inheritance disputes, these were plausible bullet points. But his entire manner reeked of carefully chosen words. Miranda decided to probe further. Show me the property details. Or the email thread. If it's all above board, I'd feel better seeing it. She braced herself for him to get defensive, but instead, Jonathan gave a slow, measured nod. I will, just not tonight. I'm exhausted. Let's go to bed, and tomorrow I'll put everything on the table. I promise. His tone was firm yet gentle, and something in Miranda wilted under the fatigue of the day. She hated the turmoil inside her, especially with the baby. She decided that another night wouldn't change the facts, so she gave a small nod, letting him lead her into their bedroom. He held her close, whispering sweet words about how they would get through anything together. But as she drifted off, a single question looped in her mind. Was he telling her the truth, or merely stalling? Morning brought a new wave of resolve. Miranda would not let this lie. But Jonathan had left before dawn, apparently called into an urgent meeting. He left a note promising to return for lunch so they could talk. No time to show her documents, no moment to reassure her with tangible evidence. As she restlessly walked through the apartment, her phone buzzed with a text from Ariel. Any news? Did he confess? Miranda's stomach knotted. She typed back a quick summary of Jonathan's explanation, acknowledging she still felt uneasy. Ariel's reply was swift. Let's dig deeper. I have a contact who might help. Attached was a business card for a private investigator named Benjamin Chase. He was apparently a friend of Ariel's cousin, known for his discretion and effectiveness. Miranda stared at the name, torn between loyalty to her husband and an unshakable fear that he was hiding more. She typed, "Let me think about it." She spent the next few hours pacing, rereading the flight confirmation email. A single damning detail stood out. The booking mentioned a romantic ocean view suite. That phrase hammered relentlessly at her. Would a purely professional meeting involve a suite that came with a private hot tub and champagne welcome package? She tried to rationalize maybe it was the only suite available, or maybe Jonathan had been automatically upgraded. But the doubt refused to loosen its grip. Finally, after an hour of near anguish, Miranda dialed Benjamin Chase's number. Benjamin Chase's office was not the smoky, dim-lit cliché Miranda expected from detective dramas. It was a clean, sun-dappled space in a midtown building, with light wood floors and a single potted plant near the corner window. Benjamin himself was a tall man in his 40s, with salt and pepper hair and sharp, kind eyes. He greeted Miranda and Ariel warmly, offering them each a seat. Miranda hesitated, feeling a pang of guilt. She still loved Jonathan deeply, and hiring a private investigator felt like a monumental betrayal. But the memory of that romantic suite hovered like a neon sign in her mind. "I understand you have questions about your husband's recent travel plans," Benjamin said, leaning back in his chair. "Before we proceed, I want to assure you that anything you share remains confidential. No one will know you've spoken to me unless you choose to tell them." Miranda swallowed hard, nodding. "I just need the truth, no matter how painful it might be." Benjamin nodded, empathy flickering in his eyes. "Then, let's begin. Tell me what you know so far." She recounted everything: Jonathan's suspicious itinerary, the name Annette Holloway, the alleged business venture, and her husband's carefully measured explanation. Ariel chimed in, mentioning their limited social media search results. Benjamin listened intently, jotting down notes with neat penmanship. When Miranda finished, Benjamin tapped his pen against the notepad. I can do a deeper dive: financial records, property ownership, previous travel logs. If Annette Holloway is affiliated with anything shady, or if there's a personal connection that your husband isn't disclosing, I'll find it. Ariel nodded in approval. Miranda exhaled, whispering, "All right, let's do this." They agreed on a retainer fee, and Benjamin promised to start immediately. As Miranda stood to leave, her stomach churned with a mix of apprehension and relief. She had taken the first step toward uncovering the truth, and there would be no turning back. Outside the building, Ariel gave Miranda's hand a comforting squeeze. "You did the right thing. Even if Jonathan's telling the truth, it's better to verify." Miranda offered a shaky smile, hugging her friend. "Thank you for being here. I hope this is all some misunderstanding." Later that afternoon, Miranda returned to the penthouse to find Jonathan's note on the kitchen counter: "Emergency meeting at the bank. Might be home late. Love you." Her heart sank. Another delay. Another excuse. She ran her fingers over the smooth marble countertop. She could almost feel the distance growing between them, a chasm that threatened to swallow her marriage whole. She wandered into her home office. Work had been a welcome refuge in recent days. She still occasionally took on freelance design projects, though she'd scaled back since pregnancy fatigue set in. Today, she opened her design software, trying to sketch out a new logo for a local boutique. Yet her mind refused to focus. She kept staring at the blank screen, thoughts drifting to all the possible scenarios. What if Jonathan was in love with Annette? What if he wanted to build a life with her in Europe? Was Miranda just a convenient wife, a trophy to show off at events? No, that didn't make sense. He had been so supportive, so loving. She pressed her eyes shut, remembering the moment he discovered she was pregnant. He had laughed and cried at the same time, scooping her into his arms. Could that have been an act? By evening, Jonathan still hadn't returned. Miranda ate a light dinner alone, picking at her food. Her phone chimed, revealing a text from Jonathan: "Going to finish late. Stay in bed. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Anger flared. How many tomorrows would there be before he actually laid everything on the table? She typed out a curt reply: "Fine, good night." Then she slammed the phone down, feeling tears brim. The next few days followed a similar pattern. Jonathan left early, stayed out late, and gave Miranda short, comforting lines without presenting any hard evidence. He claimed he was finalizing a major deal. She was left to doubt, to pace, to wonder if hiring a private investigator was her only lifeline. Late one night, while Jonathan was in the shower, she noticed his phone on the nightstand. A single message lit the screen, too quick to read. Temptation seized her, and she picked it up. Locked, of course. She swallowed hard, realizing how far she'd fallen snooping through a phone she once respected as off-limits. She set it back down, guilt coursing through her. Yet desperation had its own gravity, pulling her deeper into an unfamiliar darkness. She was a wife on the brink, a mother to be clinging to the remains of a life that might be an illusion. She whispered into the empty room, "Please, let this be a misunderstanding. Please." About a week later, Benjamin Chase called Miranda with his preliminary findings. His tone was tense as he asked her to meet him at his office immediately. Her stomach lurched. She hurriedly texted Jonathan, letting him know she was running errands, though she doubted he would even notice. Inside Benjamin's office, the air felt heavier than before. He closed the door, motioning for her to take a seat across from his desk. "Miranda, I've done extensive digging. I want you to brace yourself." Her heart thundered. She clenched her hands in her lap. "Just tell me." Benjamin nodded, flipping open a manila folder. "I confirmed that Annette Holloway is indeed a Monaco resident, 29 years old, with no immediate family in that region. She's originally from the US but relocated after a significant inheritance. I found no direct link to an Italian family estate or any father's land in the Amalfi Coast. In fact, her father passed away years ago, leaving her a sizable trust, but no property in Italy. Miranda's breath caught. That directly contradicted Jonathan's entire explanation. She felt tears sting, but she forced herself to keep listening. Benjamin continued, "Furthermore, Annette's social media and digital footprint show multiple visits to luxury destinations, Paris, Dubai, London, Hong Kong, often overlapping with your husband's business travel schedules. Same approximate dates, same cities. I've cross-referenced flight records. Jonathan's private jet or corporate flights he's listed on frequently land in these cities around the same time she's there. Her vision blurred, chest constricting. He's been with her. She fought to remain composed. So they've been traveling together, or at least traveling to the same places all this time." He nodded gravely. "It appears so. I also checked local property records in Monaco. There's no estate in Italy under her name. She's not dealing with inheritance issues. She's living quite lavishly, though. My guess is that your husband may be financing her lifestyle." Miranda thought she might be sick. The revelation pummeled her. All the times Jonathan insisted he was traveling for urgent business or philanthropic causes. He could have been gallivanting with this woman. Her mind reeled. Was their entire marriage a sham? Benjamin's voice softened. "I'm sorry, I know this is devastating. I wanted to give you the facts before digging deeper. You can decide how to proceed." She let out a shaky exhale, tears slipping free despite her efforts. "Thank you," she whispered. I need more information. I need to be absolutely sure. Is there any proof of an affair?" He pursed his lips. "Hard evidence, like photographs of them together, will take more time. But from her social media, it's clear she's frequently stayed at the same luxury hotels where Jonathan has bookings like the Four Seasons in Paris last spring, the Claridge's in London 6 months ago, a yacht in Monaco. There's enough circumstantial evidence to draw a conclusion." Miranda dug her nails into her palm, trying to control the wave of panic. She forced herself to ask, could it be a business arrangement? Some sponsorship deal? Benjamin shook his head gently. "That's possible, but unlikely. The nature of the hotel's suites and their timing, it suggests something more personal. If you want photographic proof, I can assign someone to follow them or gather direct evidence. But it's entirely your call." She stared at the folder, at the jumble of flight logs, names, and dates. In her mind's eye, she saw Jonathan's bright smile when he'd first asked her out to dinner, the promise in his voice at their wedding ceremony when he vowed fidelity and respect. She wanted to tear those memories to shreds, to bury them beneath the betrayal. Her hand drifted to her stomach. The baby kicked lightly, as if sensing her turmoil. It brought a wave of grief so overwhelming that she had to take several deep breaths. "Go ahead," she finally managed. "I need the full truth." Benjamin reached across the desk, placing a reassuring hand near hers. "I'll do my best to keep you updated. You deserve the facts." Leaving the office, Miranda felt as though the city's skyscrapers loomed ominously, mocking her heartbreak. She stumbled onto the sidewalk, tears burning her cheeks. Ariel was waiting across the street at a cafe, and when Miranda saw her friend's worried face, she broke into guttural sobs. Ariel raced over, cradling Miranda in a fierce hug. "It's real," Miranda managed, choking on tears. "He's been lying, maybe for years. All those trips, all those nights he was away." Ariel held her, face furious with protective rage. "That bastard. I swear, if he hurts you and the baby," Miranda pulled away, voice shaky but resolute. "I need to confront him, but I want to be smart about this. I want more evidence, so he can't gaslight me, so he can't Let's spin another story. Ariel nodded, pushing Miranda's hair back from her tear-stained face. You're stronger than you think, Miri. We'll get through this together. That night, Miranda paced the penthouse, waiting for Jonathan. But again, he came home late, claiming exhaustion. She forced herself to swallow the accusations, not wanting a half-baked confrontation without undeniable proof. Her heart thundered in her chest, and anger heated her blood. The next morning, he was gone before she awoke. Thus began the longest, most agonizing waiting game of Miranda Townsend's life. Over the next 2 weeks, Benjamin worked tirelessly. He sent Miranda text updates in coded language to maintain secrecy. One evening, he finally requested another meeting, this time in a small cafe away from prying eyes. Miranda slipped out during midday, telling Jonathan she had a doctor's appointment, though she doubted he even cared to ask details. At the cafe's back corner table, Benjamin placed a small envelope before Miranda. Photographs, he explained gently, and some corresponding receipts. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope. The first photograph showed Jonathan stepping off a private jet in Naples, Italy, wearing a crisp linen shirt. Beside him, hand in hand, was a stunning brunette. Her hair framed elegant features, Annette, no doubt. They looked every bit like a couple on a romantic getaway. The next photo was them entering a 5-star hotel, sharing a laugh, heads close together. Another showed them dining on a restaurant terrace overlooking the sea. In some pictures, Jonathan's arm encircled her waist, his lips pressed to her temple. A cold numbness wrapped around Miranda's mind. She had suspected this, but seeing it spelled out in color photographs was like a blow to the chest. The final piece was a receipt, labeled Couples Spa Package, listing both their names. With Jonathan's credit card on file, Benjamin gave her time to absorb the images. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. They arrived in Naples 3 days ago and then headed to the Amalfi Coast together. They're scheduled to leave tomorrow. I didn't want to overwhelm you with live updates, but I felt you needed proof. Miranda stared at the faces in the photographs. The man who had promised her loyalty, the father of the child growing in her womb, was standing intimately with another woman. She felt her world crumble, the last vestiges of hope turning to dust. "My God," she whispered, tears blurring the photos. "He's with her right now." Benjamin cleared his throat, sympathetic but professional. "Yes, they've been there for a few days." Rage bubbled beneath her grief. Jonathan had told her he was swamped with meetings, that he was across the country dealing with urgent business. He was out of the country, enjoying a romantic holiday with Annette. Miranda forced herself to breathe. She looked to Benjamin. "What else do you know about Annette? Is this her first time traveling with him while I've been pregnant?" He flipped through his notes. "She accompanied him to London about 4 months ago, soon after you announced your pregnancy. Before that, they were in Dubai together for New Year's. There's a pattern." His eyes were full of regret as he delivered the news. "I'm sorry." Miranda closed her eyes, her body trembling with a mixture of heartbreak and fury. The scale of his betrayal was staggering. This wasn't a one-time lapse of judgment. It was an ongoing affair, woven into the fabric of his life for months, possibly years. A question churned in her mind. How could I have missed this? She remembered every hush over the phone, every cancelled date night, every surprise business trip. She had tried to be the supportive wife, never suspecting she was enabling Jonathan's web of lies. Then a stronger thought emerged. What do I do now? She was pregnant, financially supported by him, though she had her own savings, thanks to Jonathan's generosity early in their relationship. But the prospect of leaving him felt like stepping off a cliff. Benjamin spoke softly, as if reading her thoughts. "You're not alone. You have legal options. Prenuptial agreements can be contested in cases of infidelity, depending on the jurisdiction. If you need a lawyer, I can recommend someone highly discreet." Also, therapy might help you navigate the emotional toll. Miranda nodded numbly, clasping the envelope of photos. Thank you. Let me figure out my next steps. She pushed back her chair and hurried from the cafe, the envelope held tight against her chest. Outside, the bustling city carried on. People chatted, horns honked, tourists snapped pictures. No one noticed the pregnant woman who had just discovered her world was built on deception. She took a shaky breath and texted Ariel. He's in Italy with her. I have proof. I need to see you. Ariel wasted no time. She invited Miranda to her loft that evening. Over steaming mugs of herbal tea, Miranda spread the photos across the coffee table. Ariel's expression darkened as she flipped through them. I can't believe this. I want to wring his neck, she hissed. Miranda wiped fresh tears. All this time, I feel like a fool. He was living a double life, wasn't he? Ariel set the photos down gently, wrapping an arm around Miranda's shoulders. Listen, you're not a fool. You trusted the man you love. He's the one who's a liar and a cheat. Her voice softened. What do you want to do now? Miranda stared at the pictures, her future flashing in her mind like a broken reel. She imagined confronting Jonathan, the lies he would spin. She pictured the baby's future. Would her child grow up in a broken home or trapped in a loveless marriage? She thought of all the humiliating stares at social events if this scandal became public. Slowly, she shook her head. I can't stay silent. I don't want to just let him pretend everything is normal. But I need to protect myself and the baby. If I leave him, I have to do it on my own terms. Ariel nodded. I'll be with you every step. Have you thought about meeting with a lawyer? Miranda swallowed hard. I guess I should. We did sign a prenup, but I never thought I'd have to rely on it. Jonathan insisted it was a formality. I don't even remember every clause. I was so naive. She recalled the day they signed the papers, just before their lavish wedding in Napa Valley. The Townsend lawyers had presented a thick folder of legalese. Jonathan reassured her it was standard procedure for someone of his financial standing. Miranda, blinded by love, had barely glanced at the details, trusting him completely. She prayed now that she hadn't signed away her rights in the event of an affair. Yes, she said firmly. I'll call Benjamin in the morning and get that recommendation. It's time for me to know exactly where I stand. Ariel nodded, resolute. Good. And in the meantime, come stay with me if you feel unsafe or just need space. Miranda's eyes welled again, but with gratitude. I might take you up on that. Thank you for everything. In the coming days, a fierce sense of resolve took hold in Miranda's heart. While Jonathan was away in Italy, she scheduled a meeting with the attorney Benjamin recommended, Claudia White, a sharp, no-nonsense woman known for handling high-profile divorce cases. Miranda walked into Claudia's office, steel in her spine, determined to protect her unborn child and salvage some dignity. Claudia listened carefully, eyes scanning the photos, the flight itineraries, and the suspicious financial documents Miranda had managed to gather. You have a strong case, Claudia said, tapping a manicured nail on a damning photo of Jonathan and Annette kissing on a yacht. If the prenup includes an infidelity clause, and many do, this can significantly alter the divorce settlement. We'll need to review the entire prenup text, of course. But from an outsider's perspective, your husband engaged in a long-term extramarital affair. Judges don't look kindly on that, especially with a pregnant spouse at home. Miranda felt both relief and sorrow. What about custody? I don't want to bar him from seeing his child, but I do want to make sure the baby and I are taken care of. Claudia nodded. Custody is a separate matter from the financial settlement, but the affair can influence the final outcome if we can show irresponsibility or an unstable family environment. However, courts generally favor joint custody unless there's abuse or neglect. Still, your baby isn't even born yet, which complicates things. My advice is to gather everything, keep calm, and proceed with caution. Do not let him suspect you're preparing for legal action until we have a solid plan. Miranda left Claudia's office feeling strangely empowered. Yes, her heart still ached, but now she had direction, a path towards securing her future. She returned to the penthouse, fully expecting it to be empty. Instead, she was startled to find Jonathan in the kitchen, humming as he poured wine into a crystal glass. He spun around when she walked in, face lighting up with a broad smile. "Hey, beautiful," he greeted, as if everything were perfectly normal. "I thought you might be out, so I picked up dinner." He gestured to a fancy paper bag with an Italian restaurant logo. Miranda's stomach twisted at the name, the same restaurant where they used to celebrate special occasions. Her eyes flicked over him. He wore casual clothing, a new tan from the sunny Amalfi Coast. She felt revulsion coil inside her. He was carrying on as though he hadn't just been gallivanting with another woman. "How was your trip?" she asked tightly, removing her coat with forced casualness. He poured another glass, presumably for her, grueling. "We're getting close to finalizing this property deal, but there's still a mountain of paperwork." His expression was so convincing, so calm, that it nearly took her breath away. Miranda crossed her arms, voice trembling. "So, you were away on business the whole time?" He nodded slowly, not missing a beat. "Yeah, you know how these negotiations go." Then he leaned in, pressing a kiss to her cheek. She froze, a roil of anger making her want to slap him. But she held back, forcing a neutral mask. "Right," she whispered, pulling away. "I'm just going to wash up. We'll talk in a bit." She turned on her heel, ignoring his confused expression. In the bathroom, she stared at her reflection, the swirl of betrayal, heartbreak, and rage etched on her features. He was lying to her face, confident she remained clueless. He had no idea she possessed photographic evidence of his infidelity. For a fleeting moment, she wanted to confront him. Right then, wave the pictures in his face. But Claudia's advice echoed in her mind. "Do not let him suspect you're preparing for legal action." Taking a steadying breath, Miranda decided to play his game a little longer, to gather every piece of leverage she might need. "He might be a master manipulator, but I won't be his victim any longer." In the days that followed, Miranda played the role of a compliant wife. She responded to Jonathan's affectionate gestures with forced smiles, withheld her accusations, and carefully avoided any outbursts. The tension inside her coiled tighter with each passing hour. Yet, ironically, Jonathan seemed more devoted than ever, as if trying to soothe any suspicion. He brought home flowers, asked about her pregnancy cravings, even started reading baby books, gestures that might have thrilled her a month ago, but now only fanned the flames of anger. Miranda continued her secret meetings with Claudia, who meticulously reviewed the prenup. As it turned out, there was indeed an infidelity clause, a somewhat standard inclusion that Jonathan's lawyers had overlooked in their arrogance. If proven, the affair could entitle Miranda to a significant financial settlement and possible ownership of certain marital assets. One early morning, Miranda found Jonathan in the nursery, gazing at the crib they had picked out together. She stood at the doorway, heart throbbing with conflicting emotions. Despite everything, a part of her still remembered the man she fell in love with, the one who had seemed so genuine and kind. It hurt to see him there, wearing a look of tender longing. But then she recalled the photographs of him tangling his arms around Annette. The ache in her chest sharpened, fueling her resolve. He made his choice. As her plan to leave him solidified, Miranda confided in only two people, Ariel and Benjamin. Ariel helped her discreetly gather personal belongings and sentimental items from the penthouse, packing them into boxes that she stored at Ariel's loft. She retrieved important documents, sentimental jewelry, and private diaries she'd kept over the years. Meanwhile, Benjamin was on standby, ready to assist if Jonathan discovered her plans prematurely. Finally, a day came when Claudia told her, "We're ready to file, but it might be wise to confront him first. You can gauge his reaction. If he tries to threaten or manipulate you, we'll proceed immediately." Miranda's stomach churned. She was terrified of the confrontation. Jonathan was cunning, a seasoned negotiator. He could twist words, evoke pity, or fling blame. But she couldn't hide forever. She sat at her vanity mirror that evening, hands shaking as she rehearsed what she might say. She felt the baby kick again, a reminder that she must remain strong. That night, she found Jonathan in his study, scrolling through his phone with a glass of whiskey beside him. She inhaled a steadying breath before stepping inside. "Jonathan, can we talk?" she asked, voice trembling despite her best efforts. He looked up, smiling faintly, though a flicker of concern crossed his eyes. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Miranda closed the door, her heart pounding as though it might burst free. She forced herself to hold his gaze. "I know about Italy, and about Annette. I know everything." A thick silence followed. Jonathan's expression froze, slowly morphing into one of calculated shock. I don't understand," he stammered, but she saw the glimmer of panic beneath his attempted composure. Her throat constricted, tears threatening, but she hardened her voice. "I hired a private investigator. I have pictures, flight logs, or receipts, all of it. So please, don't bother lying anymore." His mouth opened, then closed. He set his phone down, the corners of his mouth tightening. "Miranda, let me explain." She cut him off with a raised hand. "No. You've had plenty of chances to explain. You lied to my face. Not once, but repeatedly. While I was pregnant with your child, Jonathan stood, attempting to approach her, but she stepped back. It's not as simple as you think," he whispered, as though struggling to find the right words. "I never meant to hurt you." Miranda's composure cracked, tears sliding down her cheeks. "You never meant to hurt me. Then why were you in a romantic suite with another woman? Why did you travel the world with her? Why did you tell me you were away on business while you were really with her?" His voice choked. I was confused, Miri. There were things about our marriage, about the baby." I felt pressured, suffocated, she spat, anger taking over. "You left me alone in this penthouse, pregnant and scared, while you frolicked with Annette." Her voice broke. "How dare you blame me for your affair?" He raked a hand through his hair, eyes darting as he searched for a foothold. "I'm sorry. I know it looks terrible, but I do love you. Stop," she hissed, feeling months of pain condense into that single word. "I'm done. I'm leaving you, and I'm filing for divorce." She watched the color drain from his face. "Divorce?" He edged forward, lowering his voice. "Think about the baby. Think about our family, our future. We can fix this. I'll end it with Annette, I swear. Just give me a chance to make this right." Miranda shook her head, tears slipping freely. "You had all the chances in the world. I begged you to tell me what was wrong. You gaslit me, made me question my own sanity. I won't stay in a marriage built on lies. This ends now." Jonathan's jaw clenched. For a moment, genuine desperation shone in his eyes, but it quickly hardened to anger. "You can't just leave. You need me, financially. Think about it. I control everything." He stepped closer, voice low. "You're pregnant, Miri. Where will you go? How will you manage?" She met his gaze, forging steel in her spine. "I'm not the naive girl you married, Jonathan. I have representation. There's an infidelity clause in our prenup. You should read it sometime." He flinched, shock crossing his features. Then his shoulders sagged. "Miranda, let's not do anything rash. We can talk. See a therapist, whatever it takes. I messed up, but I don't want to lose you." Miranda's voice shook with finality. "It's too late." She turned on her heel, ignoring the tremor in her limbs. "I'll be at Ariel's," she said quietly. My lawyer will be in touch. Jonathan called her name, but she didn't stop. She collected the overnight bag she'd prepared weeks ago and walked out the door, tears blurring her vision. The elevator ride down felt like an eternity. When the doors opened onto the lobby, she took a deep breath, stepping into the crisp night air as a newly freed woman, albeit one with a shattered heart. The divorce proceedings were swift in the public eye, yet agonizingly slow for Miranda. The tabloids caught wind of Jonathan Townsend's scandal, splashing headlines like "Millionaire's secret affair exposed" and "Pregnant wife walks out." Despite the invasive coverage, Miranda shielded herself behind Claudia's legal expertise, refusing to comment publicly. Jonathan attempted to reconcile privately, offering elaborate gifts and heartfelt pleas for forgiveness. He insisted he'd break things off with Annette, that they could raise the baby together. But Miranda's resolve stayed firm. The betrayal had run too deep, the trust beyond repair. She didn't scream, she didn't rage, she simply let the legal documents speak for her. In the end, the prenup's infidelity clause gave Miranda a comfortable financial settlement, enough to secure a new home in a peaceful neighborhood close to Ariel. She focused on her pregnancy, determined to create a loving environment for her child, far from the deceit that had once tainted her life. On a calm autumn evening, Miranda went into labor. Ariel rushed her to the hospital, and a few intense hours later, Miranda held her newborn son in her arms. She cried tears of joy and sorrow, wishing her marriage had remained the fairy tale she once believed in. Still, she promised her son he'd never feel the lack of love in his life. Sometimes, late at night, Miranda recalled the swirl of illusions she'd once lived in. But each morning she woke to see her son's wide eyes gazing up at her, reminding her of the new chapter she'd forged. A chapter no longer steeped in lies, but in strength, hope, and the promise of a fresh start. Lives can hinge on a single discovery, a hidden itinerary, a glimpse of the truth. Miranda Townsend learned the hardest way possible that even picture-perfect marriages can hide devastating secrets. Yet in the ashes of betrayal, she found the courage to rebuild, proving that love for oneself and one's child can ignite the strongest resolve. If this story moved you, if it made you question trust, loyalty, and the power of resilience, consider sharing it with friends or subscribing for more real-life dramas that reflect our deepest fears and triumphs. Your support helps bring to light the stories we often bury in silence. Hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next gripping narrative. Together, we'll keep exploring the unexpected twists life can throw our way and the strength it takes to rise above them.